Today's Curiosity Teardown is accompanied by Infernal Fusion Machine Black Ale from Dastardly Villain Brewing in Winnipeg. The three-word description is espresso, smooth, and bold. They describe it as having espresso flavors, roasted malt, bold characters of Maris Otter malt, and a deep black color. Quickly becoming one of my go-tos. So, today's teardown is going to be this device here, which is a ZTE model WF720. This was sold as a wireless home phone device. Essentially, it connects up to the cellular network using this slightly damaged antenna. And through these standard RJ11 jacks on the back, you would connect your old school wireline, landline, POTS telephone sets. So you could connect the old phone that you've always had at home, sitting on the wall or the desk or whatever, and make it operate like a cell phone. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, for older people, I suppose. If you've got young kids at home and you don't want to give them a phone, but you still want them to have access to a phone, this will work with TDD devices, with fax machines and things like that. An assortment of reasons. Plus, the companies that used these tended to set the billing plans a lot cheaper than a normal cell phone because it is just voice. It's not a smartphone. It doesn't have all those data features with it. First, just to get this out of the way, it came with a branded power supply. Not really a charger because it's got a barrel jack on the back of it. Whatever. It is a 5-volt amp-and-a-half power supply, which will be a nice addition to my collection of wall warts. Handy for just sticking on a project and leaving them permanently. As you can see, this example, the antenna connector is damaged, so I won't worry too much about that. Oh, it's using a TNC connector. So in addition to the antenna connector, the power, and the RJ11 or RJ12s, there is a USB connector on the back, which apparently is just for service or maintenance, probably for throwing a memory stick in with a firmware load and then you reboot it. But that would have to be a proprietary firmware load, and not really concerned about doing that. What I want to do is take it apart and see what's inside it. These operate on 2G and 3G networks, aka GSM 2G and UMTS or HSPA 3G. Both of which are pretty much deprecated. 3G is being killed off. There's still a little bit of 2G around here, but like just one or two carriers, not enough to sustain a lot of traffic, just enough to say that it exists. So that's why these things are showing up all over the place in scrap boxes and whatnot, because they pretty much can't do anything anymore. There's a battery inside it, which is good because one of the features of the old telephone, the plain old telephone system, is that it still works when the power goes out. So for this, you can still use your old landline style phone when the power's out, at least for a little while anyway. And being a cellular device, there's a SIM card in there. But as you can see, not a standard sized SIM card, not the standard size, not the micro or the mini. This is a larger SIM card. And even though it says LTE on the back of it, this device was never provisioned for LTE, and it doesn't have the hardware for LTE. So that's just the SIM card that they used with it. But again, since this one has been decommissioned and shut down, presumably the account associated with that SIM card also no longer exists. So that goes bye-bye. How do we get into this thing? I'm going to guess that there are screws underneath these rubber feet. No? Well, how about underneath this little rubber bung beside the foot then? Is there a screw underneath there? There is. One. Where's the rest of the screws then? Is that... Aha! Under the warranty sticker, or I guess warranty void sticker. There it is. 2. Is that enough to get it apart? Do I need to unscrew that maybe to help part the C's here? Now, what are the odds that there's screws under there? That looks more like a screw hole. Yeah, up to their old tricks again. Okay, that's 4 screws. Now, does it want to come apart? Okay. Now, what's missing from the equation here? Well, that's promising. It can get in there, but it doesn't do anything. Oh, I think I'm getting somewhere. What happens up here now? Multiple different types of prying tools and spudgers and whatnot. I think I am winning. Maybe. Alright then, what happens when we got that off? And yeah, that was just held on by a whole bunch of clips. Anyway, that reveals not a lot. So this silver stuff and is just this gray stuff painted. Do I have to just peel the sticker off the front? Is that what it takes to get in here properly to get to the circuit board? Apparently that was the way in. Okay, that just had 3 clips there, 3 clips there, and a couple of the ends. And there is the circuit board. Let's pry under there, and does that want to come out? Okay, so that thing, there's a hammer to push that in. Sorry if the audio is bouncing all over the place while I'm whacking on this thing, but that's just what happens. That was good in. Right, there is our TNC connector, and it's just soldered onto the board. There is the SIM card tray, which actually has Amphenol branding on it. Wow. These components, if I didn't have a designation on the board, I would have called them diodes, but they're called VD something or other. So presumably those are voltage protection devices, over voltage, transient kind of things, maybe Zeners to protect this thing from random crap coming in through the jack, which makes sense. FV there, possibly a fuse, and then a capacitor or 2 there. A couple of transistors, capacitor, probably a power management chip there, some resistors and whatnot. Nothing super interesting. The interesting stuff is going to be hidden underneath these RF shielding cans. Although there is this over here, which looks like maybe a Wi-Fi or a Bluetooth antenna, something like that. Yeah, there's no ground plane on the circuit board underneath them, indicating that it is likely to be an antenna, just hovering up here in space. Not the cell antenna, of course, because that was this guy back here. This looks like it is probably the radio, or at least one of the radios. The easiest way to tell is there's an inductor there and another inductor there, a coupling capacitor, and that goes out to our antenna cable. So that's pretty obviously what it is. So just a radio package in a module. Over here I also see an itty bitty connector for an antenna or something, which is optional, I'm guessing, but there's also traces here that go out to this antenna that we identified earlier. And that whole thing is just sitting on a carrier board with little castellated connections there that drop down to the main PCB. And these 2 guys are probably going to be processing of various different descriptions in a shielded can so that their clock frequencies don't interfere with the RF section, and so the RF section doesn't interfere with them. Fairly typical stuff. Now then, these RF cans, I don't know whether you can see it or not, but they are soldered right down to the board. So I'm going to have to get medieval on them, and I will come back after a certain amount of violence. Although maybe I will start the violence a little bit more surgically just by cutting through that solder on the side I said, this is obsolete tech. Nobody's ever going to put it back into service because the cellular network that it relies on no longer exists. So I don't concern myself too much with causing damage. So under this first can, a couple of small ICs there, a big one there, what appears to be a voltage regulator there, which makes a certain amount of sense, and then just a handful of transistors, capacitors, and little things like that. This main chip is an SI3210M-FT. If my Googling is correct, it is one of these guys, a programmable SOIC codec with ringing and battery voltage generation. So that is the landline telephone section. This is what generates the dial tone and does all that old school landline telephony stuff. Yeah, there we go. Provides a complete analog telephone interface, ideal for customer premises equipment. So this is the one that we've got here, the 3210M-FT. It's got that single line interface, the same as everything does, DC to DC converter, DTMF. It's in a TS-SOP 38 package. And it's good up to 70 degrees Celsius, which I don't know if the people using it would be good up to 70 Celsius, but this thing claims to be able to handle it. Let's see what's underneath can number 2 here. A couple of diodes and an inductor there underneath a little glob of celastic or whatever. Not very much else. Why is that? Well, I guess if it is a switching power supply, then they're going to want to keep its switching frequency from causing problems with the RF section over there. That's my guess. Let's see if we can get closer to that chip to see what it is. LVC00A or maybe 3A4E706. And yes, I did abuse it taking the can off. I don't know if I believe this or not, but this is where all my Googling lands. LVC00A is a quad 2 input NAND gate. The number of pins, it's a 14-pin Ditmeier package. That adds up. TSSLP, sure. I did not expect to find just basic NAND gates lying out in the breeze in here. Well, I guess not really lying out in the breeze. They're hiding under a can, but still, unexpected. So I guess that just leaves the RF can to see what's inside it. And I expect an awful lot of what's in such a miniaturized RF circuit to be very smoke and mirrors and magic, but you never know until you take a look. Aha, there is the brains of the operation. We have a Qualcomm chip in here, so that is probably going to be an entire cellular modem system or cellular phone system on a single chip. Exactly what we thought it was. This is a single chip solution for HSDPA, WCDMA, which are collectively also known as UMTS. That's 3G basically, and or GSM, compromising its GPRS and edge data capabilities inside. So this one chip could be like 99% of a phone handset, or in this case, all the telephony capabilities. Capabilities such as a baseband modem, an RF transceiver, power management, and a multimedia processor, all in a single chip. It can even be a 3 megapixel camera and an MP3 player, as well as all those other things. And at its core, it's a 184 megahertz ARM processor. Well, this chip is from 2007, so obviously it's not going to compare with anything that you get today. But for the time, it's an incredibly powerful and versatile little chip. One other SK Hynix chip up here, which is probably either a processor or another part of that cellular modem chipset. After quite a bit of digging and translating, this is actually the manufacturer's website, I think. And it appears that this is a DRAM chip. DDR2, it doesn't say is how much memory it is. That's fine. I guess we don't really need to know. It's just the memory chip that the Qualcomm main processor is using for its DRAM. Interestingly, over in the corner here, all walled off with its own little can within a can, we have the oscillator, a little crystal oscillator in its own little can inside this other can. Wow, well protected. Anyway, that was a fun little quick teardown. Not too much to see because 99% of what's going on is being done by that Qualcomm chip and by that little SLIC telephony chip over there. But still, neat to take a look at something, what is that, a decade or more old? Sure. Well, if you've got any questions or comments, did you have one of these things in your home some decade ago or something? Let me know down below in the comments. I'll put a link to, I guess, to that manual that I found down there too, probably. And other than that, I guess I've got a nickel metal hydride battery for salvage, probably useless. I've got this 5-volt power supply for salvage, probably useful. TNC connector, maybe. Broken antenna, probably not. Whatever, it was fun. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you later.